My name is Ann Reeves, and I live in Fairfield, Connecticut. I've lived in Connecticut for my entire life. I am a white descendant of enslavers from Virginia, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. Like many descendants of early colonists, I have benefited from the land grabbing of indigenous land from the 1600s on, and later from the riches of the triangle trade. Over the generations, wealth builds upon wealth, and in most cases, ensuring generations of financial security. Even when some families have been less wealthy than others, we had the benefit of having enough to own land, pursue the benefits of a classical education. My family was aware of its genealogy, but more as a historical interest than pride. There were no genealogical charts on our walls. It was just an interesting fact that my twice great-grandfather was a cousin to Robert E. Lee. His name was William Fitzhugh Lee, later to be a colonel and to lose his life in the first battle of the Civil War, Manassas won. The son of a poor Episcopal minister in Richmond who died young, Willie was raised by his mother with few financial resources and helped by extended family. He married Lily Morgan Perrin of Shepherdstown, Virginia, and she was the daughter of a Baltimore-born physician, Richard Perrin, and Martha Laura Elizabeth Morgan, a descendant of the prominent Morgan family in Virginia, later to be West Virginia. I began researching these lines around 2010. I have visited the Perrin house in Shepherdstown and viewed the quarters where the enslaved lived and worked. Shivers ran through my spine. Through probate research, I have found the name of at least 27 enslaved persons, 2 of them unnamed babies, all without the dignity of a last name. I have carried this list in my wallet for many years as a reminder of this legacy. My dream is still to discover some linked descendants, and I have not given up hope about this. It was only in the last 8 years that I have paid attention to the Winthrop line. After reading a book by C.S. Maingold, 10 Hills Farm, I discovered the extent of the extraordinary damage that the first governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony inflicted on the future development of this new country, utilizing the doctrine of discovery, the 500-year-old Catholic decree that was used to justify colonization. While still in England, before setting sail on the Arabella, Winthrop wrote the sermon, A Model of Christian Charity. He stated that the new community would be as a city upon a hill in the eyes of all people, and it is upon us, a still heralded phrase that continues to instill pride in New Englanders. John Winthrop helped to write the first law in America, officially focusing on the many relationships he developed, and more importantly, the decisions he made. Each one of these seems to hammer a nail into the coffin of indigenous rights to retain their own land, and in laws leading to the writing of the first law to not only condone, but to formally institute sanctioning the practice of enslavement. Thus, as a governor of the colony, he was the one who began to legitimate enslavement through legal means, at the same time betraying the local indigenous population with empty and duplicitous promises. I began to explore New England enslavement, particularly the triangle trade, since the majority of my paternal and maternal ancestors lived in New London, Connecticut. From the Hartford Courant journalist Anne Farrow's research on the triangle trade in Rhode Island and New London, I learned about her finding a logbook of the ship Africa. She had concluded that the author was Dudley Saltonstall from a well-known Massachusetts line to which John Kerry belongs. Although I had never heard that name in relation to our family during a speech that she gave, I found myself becoming disquieted during this presentation. Saltonstall's name was revealed, and I actually began to sweat. Somehow I felt there would be a connection in the next few and in the next few weeks my fears were confirmed. Dudley Saltonstall is a cousin. Everything that I feel and know regarding the above is colored by my experience of an unusual and close friendship from the ages of 6 to 9 with an African-American girl, Audrey, exactly my age, living across the street, the granddaughter of the local domestic who lived and took care of an older woman. No one ever mentioned what happened to her mother. We lived in a lily-white community in Southport, and there were virtually no other black people, and she went to my school. This was in the late 40s, and it's a testament to my parents that they never said a word about this friendship. I went to their relatives' houses in Bridgeport. We went to the movies together. I went to their house where I was allowed to stay only in the kitchen because it was help. And we had a glorious friendship for over 2 years, maybe 3 years. And then one day in the summer, I said to my mother, I want to invite Audrey to the yacht club. And she said, you can't take Audrey. And I said, yes, I can take friends. I always take friends to the yacht club. And she said, you can't take Audrey. And I said, why? And she said, because she's Negro. And this was a turning point for me. And I just was so angry and confused. I slammed my sneaker on the floor. I threw it across the floor, and I said, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. So what I remember most is the look on my mother's face that was so sad that I knew that the grown-up I most trusted thought this was wrong and unfair. And that has set a whole direction in my life. That one look and that sadness of her having to say this to her daughter and have me lose all of my optimism around how the world is was really profound. As a history major, I learned how to ponder history within its context. But I go well beyond the notion of, well, that's the way it was, so you have to see it in context. But then I moved to the simple fact that I cannot simply understand how someone can look at another human being, the same damn species, and consider him or her to be less than human. I don't get it. Rather than getting caught in the confusion, my response to the knowledge of my family's complicity has not been shame or anger or guilt, but just extreme sadness. And a desire to rectify it, to make things right, knowing that I can't change history. In the spirit, I continue to monitor my own accountability. Having been born into privilege, I see it as a responsibility, an opportunity, and even a joy to right a wrong, to ensure that the words liberty and created equal are enacted in all aspects of our civic life, to protest any and all legal or political actions that mock with cruelty the earlier empty promises. I am dedicated to the teaching and promotion of the complete range of African American history, whenever and wherever.